Saturday morning, 1974. You've got a fistful of change, a few pennies, maybe a nickel if it was a good week, and you're standing at the counter of the corner store. The candy's kept low, down where a kid can reach it. Behind the till, the owner's waiting. Not impatient. They knew you. They knew your mother. You point, you count it out, and you walk back out into the cold with a little paper bag that felt like the richest thing in the world. Most of what sat on that shelf is gone now. Not hard to find. Gone. And I've got 10 of them in this video. Some you'll remember the second I say the name, others you forgot completely. Until right now. The first one, they're not even allowed to sell the way you bought it. You could not sell these to a child today. Not a chance. Popeye Cigarettes. White candy sticks, chalky and sweet with a red painted tip on the end, made to look exactly like a lit cigarette. Sold in a box built to look like a real pack of smokes, with Popeye himself grinning off the front. And every kid in Canada did the same thing with them. You'd hold one between two fingers, tuck it in the corner of your mouth, and stand there on the sidewalk pretending to smoke, right in front of your parents. Nobody blinked. Some kids would tap the ash off the end. You'd puff on it in the schoolyard in January just to watch your own breath come out like smoke. Then the world changed its mind. People decided, fairly enough, that handing children fake cigarettes maybe wasn't the finest idea. The red tip came off. The name was scrubbed. They became Popeye candy sticks. Same chalky candy. But the thing you actually remember, the red tip, the pack, pretending to be your dad on a smoke break, that specific thing is gone. You can still buy the sticks. You can't buy the memory back. Say the name out loud. Wig Wag. If you were a kid in the 70s, your mouth already knows what's coming. It was a long, thin rope of chewy caramel, braided and twisted back on itself into a lattice, then coated in milk chocolate, made by Macintoshes, and the whole point of a Wig Wag was that it took forever to eat. You didn't bite it. You couldn't, really. You pulled a strand loose with your teeth and the caramel stretched halfway across the room. Half the fun was the engineering of it, finding a loose end, working it free, watching how long you could make one strip go. It outlasted the walk home, it outlasted the school bus. Then, sometime in the 80s, it was just gone. No announcement, no farewell. Now, and every Canadian who's gone looking knows this, people will tell you, oh, just buy a Curly Wurly, it's the same thing. It is not the same thing. It's close. It's a British cousin that came over later. But it isn't the bar you're actually thinking about, the one with the Canadian name your friend said in the schoolyard. That one never came back. This one's strange, because for a lot of you, nobody else remembers it, and that almost makes it worse. The Cuban Lunch. A thick slab of dark chocolate packed with chopped peanuts, sitting in a little red frilled paper cup, the same kind of ruffled cup you'd see under a fancy chocolate, wrapped in clear cellophane so you could see exactly what you were getting. Made in Winnipeg, at the Paulins factory for the better part of 70 years. Out west, this was the bar. Road trips, Fridays after school. Something a dad would toss on the counter and split with you in the truck because the peanuts and the chocolate held together even on a hot day. It wouldn't melt down your arm. Paulins stopped making it in 1991, and then something happened that tells you everything about how this bar lived in people's hearts. Grown adults went looking for it, for their mothers, for themselves, and found nothing but other people online asking the same desperate question. Does anyone know where I can get a Cuban lunch? One woman in Alberta loved it so much she bought the rights and brought a version back just to make her elderly mom happy. But ask anyone who grew up on the original and they'll tell you quietly, it's close, but it isn't quite the one from the Red Factory in Winnipeg. It never is. Here's one that still stings for the people who loved it, because they'll swear to this day it was better than what replaced it. The Caravel bar. A smooth layer of caramel over crispy puffed rice, the whole thing wrapped in milk chocolate, and the people who remember it are absolutely certain it was better than the 100 grand, better than the Crunch, better than anything on the shelf doing the same job. It had that snap. The rice gave you the crunch, the caramel gave you the chew, and for a few cents, it was the most satisfying thing in the rack. And then in 1978, after the company that made it got swallowed up in a merger, the Caravel was quietly discontinued. Not because people stopped buying it, because of a boardroom, because of a deal signed in a room none of us were in. That's the part that gets people about this one. It didn't fail. It didn't fall out of favor. It got erased for reasons that had nothing to do with the kid at the counter holding out his coins. And the bars that were basically the same recipe, they're still on the shelf today. Just the Caravel isn't. Some bars you loved for what was in them. This one you loved because there was nothing in it at all. Jersey milk. Just milk chocolate. No caramel, no crunch, no nougat, no gimmick. A plain bar of smooth, creamy Nielsen chocolate in that simple red and cream wrapper. For a lot of Canadians, this was the very first chocolate bar they ever had. The 10-cent one. The one your grandmother kept in a glass dish on the side table. The one that turned up in the toe of a Christmas stocking every single year. It wasn't flashy. It was never trying to be. It was just there, quietly, for about 100 years. And in 2025, no press release, no goodbye, it was discontinued. Just gone off the shelves one day. The kind of thing you don't even notice is missing until you reach for it, and it isn't there. It wasn't the most exciting bar in the country. Nobody's putting it top of a list of favorites. But it was ours, and it was there the whole time, and now it's part of the pile of small things this country used to have and quietly let go. If you're a certain age, I only have to say the name, and you can taste it. Golden Fudge. Chewy caramel and a soft fudge center, all under a coat of Nielsen chocolate. And what people miss most isn't even the sweetness, it's the texture. That specific pull of the fudge, the way it sat somewhere between a candy bar and an actual dessert. It felt like more than a bar. It felt like something substantial, something you'd earned. Nielsen had been part of Canadian life for so long that when one of their bars disappeared, it didn't feel like a product being pulled. It felt like losing a small piece of the furniture of childhood. And that's exactly what happened. Golden Fudge slipped off the shelves, and most people can't even tell you the year, which is somehow the saddest part. It didn't get a send-off. It didn't get a petition. It just wasn't there anymore, and one day you went looking for that exact chewy fudge feeling and realized nothing on the shelf does it. Nothing has since. Picture the wrapper before the bar, a bright orange sleeve. You could spot it from across the shop. Bar 6. Cadbury made it just for Canada. A crisp wafer bar with a layer of hazelnut cream running through it, snapped into 6 little fingers. That's where the name came from. 6 pieces. Which meant it came with a small daily decision. Eat it all now, or break off a finger and make it last. Or, the hardest thing a kid can do, actually share it. It was a Kit Kat's richer, dressier cousin. The hazelnut is what set it apart. Nothing else in the rack tasted quite like it. And by the early 2000s, Bar 6 was gone from Canadian shelves. Cadbury kept plenty of bars going. This one didn't make the cut. There was no scandal, no failure. Just a slow fade until one day the orange wrapper wasn't in the rack anymore, and you couldn't quite remember the last time you'd seen it. That's how most of these go in the end. Not with a bang. With an orange wrapper you didn't know you were seeing for the last time. This one belongs to the lunchbox kids. If you were packing school lunches in the 90s, you know exactly where this is going. Sodalicious, little chewy gummies shaped and flavored like soft drinks, cola, root beer, orange pop, with a faint sour sugar coating that made your cheeks pull in. They came in the small pouch that went straight into the brown bag or the lunch kit next to the sandwich nobody wanted. And the whole idea of them was fun. It wasn't just fruit-flavored candy. It was candy pretending to be pop, which felt clever and a little bit rebellious when you were 9. You'd trade them at the lunch table. A cola 1 for a root beer 1. Whole economies ran on these at recess. Then, like a lot of the playful stuff from that era, they got trimmed from the lineup and disappeared, and nothing really took their place, because the thing that made them special wasn't the taste, it was the idea. And companies don't always understand that the idea is the part kids remember. If you can still hear the crinkle of that pouch opening at a lunch table, you were there. Not everything in that paper bag world was sweet. Some of it was salt and grease and a brand name that Canadian kids grew up trusting completely. Hostess. Before Lay's took over every shelf in the country, Hostess was chips in Canada. That was the bag at the birthday party. That was the bag your dad brought home. If you had the munchies, and there was a jingle that told you so, with little cartoon monsters, nothing else would do. And there was one flavor Hostess gave this country that outlived the brand itself: ketchup chips. That bright red dust, the tang, the tomato and sugar hit that stained your fingertips, that was Hostess. A genuinely Canadian invention. Ask an American about ketchup chips sometime and watch the confusion on their face. That one's ours. But the brand? In 1987, Hostess got folded into Frito-Lay, and over the years the name faded off the shelves. The chips you eat now might taste similar. The bag doesn't say Hostess anymore, a name a whole generation grew up with. The name on the bag at every party, every road trip, every hockey game quietly disappeared into a bigger company the way so many Canadian things did. I saved this one for last because it's the freshest wound. This one, a lot of you watched disappear just recently. The cherry blossom. And if you know it, you already know it was strange. A whole maraschino cherry sitting in a pool of syrup wrapped in chocolate, shredded coconut, and chopped peanuts, the whole thing packed into that unmistakable yellow box. It wasn't like anything else. You either loved it or you were faintly horrified by it, and both camps were right. Here's the trick most people never knew. The filling didn't start out runny. The candy was made with a special enzyme, and over a week or two, sitting in that yellow box, the center would slowly turn from solid to that famous ooze. It was quietly transforming on the shelf while it waited for you. And the box itself became a thing. Kids kept them. Long after the candy was gone, that little yellow box held buttons, marbles, a baby tooth, spare coins. They'd been making it in one form or another since the 1890s, well over 100 years, and in 2025 it was discontinued. Gone. A candy that had been part of Canadian Valentine's Days and Christmas dishes and grandmothers' purses for a century. Just switched off. That's the thing about this whole list. None of these were killed by us not loving them. We loved them. They were killed by mergers and costs and boardrooms and the slow math of a shelf that has no room for 100 years of memory. And one by one, quietly, without a goodbye, they went. So that's 10. 10 sweets and snacks that a whole country grew up on, and that a kid today will never hold in a little paper bag. If even one of these took you straight back to a corner store you haven't thought about in 40 years, back to a counter you had to reach up to, back to the taste of something you'd forgotten you missed, then do me a favor. Drop the name of the one that got you in the comments. Say it out loud even, because half of keeping these things alive is just remembering them together. And if you know someone who'd remember these, someone who'd say, "Oh, I forgot all about that," send this to them. Subscribe to Canada Retold, and we'll keep telling the stories of the Canada that used to be, because somebody should.